I think I'd make it about 28 years as a manager.
My goodness, you make me sound old, Al.
Well, I can beat you on that one. Are you ready for this one?
Personally, I'm ready. I think I'm always ready. It's a privilege always to be a manager of any club in the Premier League, but more so for me, my longest periods I've been with Everton. It was great last year. We had a terrific year last year after sort of taking over. So here we go again.
Both yourself and the CEO talked about the transfer window this week. Angus Kinnear said that he was confident of a right back coming in before the window closed. Do you share that confidence?
Well, I think there might be 5 or 6 managers before me who was trying to bring a right back as well. So I'm not the only one. It sounds strange. It sounds as if you would find right backs 10 a penny, but that isn't the case when you're looking. Look, we've identified quite a few right backs we like. We've bid for quite a few we like. So we're right in there. So we're working to try and get one.
Is it a position which really, really needs to be filled this summer?
Well, I think we've got other people who are doing quite well. Jacob Ryan has done well for us there. Other people have filled in. We've still got Craig Patterson. We've got Merlin Röhl, who's done well in pre-season, playing there at different times. Jimmy Gardner played really well at right back for us. So it's not as if we've not got MD to do the job, but it's certainly a position we're missing, because from our squad compared to last year, we're a player down, just Seamus on his own. That takes our numbers down. So we're still a little bit down on numbers. So we've certainly got room to bring in a new right back.
I guess having to move those players from what you would think is the natural position, it leaves you at a bit more of a disadvantage, doesn't it?
It does, but maybe those players moving from that position to that position are doing a better job than the ones we think we could buy. So we're trying to do the right thing. We're limited on funds in some places, so we're looking at levels of players and we're trying to see if they're going to be better than what we already have in the building.
What are you expecting in the next few weeks and up until September 1st?
I think it'll be a difficult opening because we don't have Christian Nørgaard fit yet. Jimmy Gardner's obviously returning from a hernia operation. Tim Iroegbunam's had a sort of adductor strain which he won't make it tomorrow. So I've just got to hope that we have enough to get through at the moment with what we've got.
I actually meant what you expect in the transfer window up until September. But
yeah,
it's a great injury update though.
No. Well, we've not got huge injuries, but we've got a couple which would be really important to us and would give us a little bit of different options if we have them.
The CEO also said this week that one of the reasons he came to the club was the challenge of getting back to Everton to where it needs to be. It's easier said than done, I think, that. How big a job is it to do that?
Well, I'm desperate because I've got an idea of what it looked like when Everton were a decent side. I'm not saying we were as good as Howard Kendall's teams or the great teams he had and the players, but we've had decent teams in the past, teams which have been in and around Europe, teams that have been getting to cup finals. So we've had that in the past. So I certainly want to get back to that. And I've got an idea of what it looks like. I've got a knowledge from my experience in the Premier League, the games I've had, about what it looks like and what's required to get there. So let's hope we can do it again.
You've made Tarkowski the captain. Did he have many contenders to that position?
No, not really. I feel that Tarky's been the one Tarky was the captain really all last year. Seamus was a great captain on and off the field, and for long periods last year it was off the field, and he didn't have to do a great job, not just in at my time here, but in the time of when it was difficult. And it wasn't that long ago when it was difficult times, so we mustn't forget that. But Tarky's the one who's taken it on. He'll have to play well. He's got competition at centre half, so. But at the moment, while he's on the pitch, Tarky will be captain.
Crystal Palace come on the first game of the season, of course. They've had a number of changes, the manager, players as well. What are you expecting from them this weekend?
Well, from what we've seen so far, the manager done a brilliant job at Lens and played a very similar system to Oliver Glasner. Obviously, I think they've tweaked a few things, but obviously very similar, and I think that's probably why he was such an attraction to bring to Crystal Palace. I think we've got a lot of new managers coming in, but we've had I've seen lots and lots of new managers come into the Premier League over the years. Some brilliant managers, great managers. It's a difficult league to work in. I've got no doubt there'll be some do a great job, and there'll be some who find it really difficult. So we don't know. We'll find out. But good luck to all the new managers. I hope they all try and do well. But certainly when it's not against Everton.
Thanks, Hal. We'll go to Stuart at Premier League Productions.
Hi, David. You mentioned managers there. I think there are 9 clubs starting the season with new managers in the Premier League, including Palace, obviously. But because of that, could it actually be quite open in the league to start with whilst it all settles down?
Well, the way managers are getting changed so quickly, I'm not sure it will, because I think that the teams are quite often in place already at the clubs, and the managers are sort of coming and going and making do with what they have, or having to work with what the players they have. So, but I think it's interesting. I think the Premier League has brought Mourinho, Klopp, you name it. I could go on and on. Carlo Ancelotti, so many great managers to the Premier League over years and years. So I've got no doubt within this group of 9 new ones, there'll be 2 or 3 who really come out. I didn't mention Pep there, which I certainly should have done. So you never know where the new young managers come from, how they evolve. We've seen quite a few come and go recently as well. But the Premier League's where they all want to come to, so good luck, and it's a challenge.
And of new players, Brennan Johnson, if he's involved, might he feel as though he's almost got a bit of a point to prove against Palace after such a short spell there?
He may well do. I don't know personally if that's his thinking or how he feels about it. But you could also say the same about Dwight. Dwight's just left here, and he's going to play for Palace probably, or good chance of playing. So we don't know that. I think that obviously the both players have swapped clubs. It's never an easy thing coming back to your new club or playing against your new club as quickly as what it is. But they'll both be glad probably when the game gets out of the way and they can move on after this one.
And Hayden Hackney was class in the Championship last year. From what you've seen in the early days, do you think he'll be able to settle in quite quickly into the Premier League, which is obviously different?
I hope so. But my history would have been that the boys who've come from the Championship have taken a bit of time to get in the side and walk through it. From Julian to Bainsey and Phil Jagielka and Tim Cahill's and all the other ones. Some of them have gone right in the team and done well, and others took time to become those Premier League players. And to be fair, a lot of them went on to become full England internationals, and that's what I hope for Hayden. I hope that we can develop Hayden in a way where he goes on to get to that level. But I just don't want people expecting too much too soon from him, and I don't want to put too much pressure on him. I want him to be given the same opportunities and the chances as those boys did back then, where they took a bit to develop, watched the football for a wee bit from the sidelines before they really broke into the team.
And from your experience, what is the importance of a good start, a real sort of tone setter, if you like, right at the start of the...
Well, I think it's hugely important if you can get off to... I mean, look, last year we started the season with no great ambition that we could really get to Europe. After the first 3 or 4 games, I was in here talking and saying we've got a chance of being a European team. But really, it was out with our reach at the start of the season. But by the time we got to those 3 or 4 games, I'm saying, well, we might as well talk the positive story, because we done it, and we ran it really, really close last year.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stuart. We'll go to Julia at Radio Merseyside.
Cheers. Hi, David.
How you doing?
When you mentioned that you'd bid for some right backs that you do like, are they pending bids? Have they been accepted, rejected?
No, they've all gone by the wayside for different reasons. So yeah.
What are those reasons? Can you say?
Well, some have been injury. Some have been they've not accepted it. Some have been the fees have been a bit too. We've bid lower than what the clubs want for them. So that's been the main reasons.
What is it about this right back position that continues to be a problem to find someone that's suitable for what you want to do?
Well, I could ask the question back to everybody else, the same question. I look at so many of the clubs in football at the moment. I look at Man City, for example. They've changed the midfield player into a right back. Quite often Arsenal have played centre-halves at right back. So I think it's not just a problem here. I think there is a little bit of shortness of real top quality and levels which maybe you would want. So, of course, we can go and buy a right back. But we're trying to buy one which we think is better than what we've got. And we want that one to be somebody who we think could help us get better, improve. But yes, of course, we could go and buy a right back. There's hundreds of them we could do.
Hayden Hackney, you've just mentioned there. Is he ready then for Premier League football? And what does he have to do then? Because it sounds as though he might not be quite ready for that step up.
He might be. But the fact of the matter is if you're expecting the boy to come from the Championship and be suddenly a Premier League outstanding player, then that might be not quite ready. I think he's got the attributes to go on and do that. But as I said just previous there, I'm looking to bring him on, develop him like we've done with the others. If he's ahead of that, then he'll be in the team sooner. I think Tim Cahill came and went right into the team right away when he came from Millwall. But there was others like Bainsey and Jolien and probably Jags who had to wait their time before they got themselves into the side. So let's hope that he develops very quickly.
The CEO said he understood frustrations at the end of last season that Europe was missed out on. And he said that the Friedkin Group, the owners, had described it. They felt it was a failure because they want to see Everton win. I just wondered, in those summer conversations you have with the CEO, with the ownership, how you have felt about assessing it and your views on that.
Well, I was hugely disappointed I didn't make it. I've got to say, it took me a long time. It took me a long time of the summer to even get over it. I'm just getting over it really because I mean, to be in Europe makes a big difference. It means that much more money coming into the club. It means a better chance to sign a different level of player. You can also try and keep a bigger squad working because you have more regular games. So for me, there was a lot of reasons why I wanted it to happen. I'm surprised they were disappointed because of... I don't think MD set out. There was never ever at any time MD said to me, David, you have to make Europe or you have to be in and around the top end. I think everybody wanted to make sure that we moved into the new stadium safe, not having too difficult a season. And we've certainly done that last year.
And with that then, what's your viewpoint for this season? What do you think's achievable, or does some of that still depend on the transfer window?
Well, look, I've been in it long enough. I'm experienced enough to know what it looks like and what you really need to get to become a team challenging for Europe. And I still think we would need to buy more if we want to become one of those teams.
And do you expect more in the door?
Yeah, I do. I expect more. Whether it will happen is a different thing, but I do expect more. Yeah.
Just finally from me, just on the fans, Palace last season, going 1-0 down, and Hill Dickinson Stadium started to feel quite like Goodison on that game. It became a bit of a cauldron. I think the fans felt, the players were being wronged, you were being wronged. And I just wondered as well, the 1878s have played a great role as well that first season. And I know the club are supporting them by, helping raise funds on a match day. I think it's buying a beer in the first 45 minutes and money goes to them. So just on that, what's your message ahead of a second season at Hill Dickinson to the fans in the 1878s?
Well, let me answer the last bit, I think, was to say, fantastic, the supporters would be back, and the support we were trying to get and anything they help to donate goes a long way. So great from the supporters. I think this year we've had Warriera sort of coming in. We've maybe not had the wallpaper up and the paintings up, everything we want at the Hill Dickinson, but we're now beginning to make it feel like home. Our record away from home last year was really, really good. But our record at home wasn't as good as I'd like it to be. Could have been because of the start of the first year in the new stadium. Could have been other teams coming in, the big anticipation. Could have been just a different environment, getting away from Goodison. So we need to turn that into somewhere where we take more points this year than we did last year. That would be some. But I don't want to take away the points we got away from home last year, because it gave the away supporters loads and loads to enjoy. The travel was worth it. But so I asked both the away support and the home support. Evertonians have always been good, so we need it as much as ever.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thanks, Julia. Any further questions in the open section? Paddy, we'll go to you.
Hi David, how do you feel Merlin Röhl has done at right back? I know he's spent a lot of time there in pre-season, so I just wondered what you thought of his performances there and whether he could do that role this season if he needs to.
I think he can play several roles for us, which I think he's shown. And anybody who's watched us recently, he's probably we've tried it. We've tried a few things in pre-season with different players and tried a couple of different things in games to see how it's been. I think anybody who's watched Merlin in pre-season would say he's done really well. And this is a boy who we brought on loan last year, and it was already permanent anyway, so it was already done last year. It was just that it had to be a loan for the first part of it. So we're I think he can step in, and I think he's done well. And it goes back to the thing about we're crying out for a right back all the time. Maybe we could find one within our own place, like other clubs have had to do. They've had to find. I used. It's Nunes, the right back, I think, using Nunes at Man City as an example, who Man City had to, when they lost the likes of Kyle Walker, etc., those players, Rico Lewis, who was playing there, but they thought Nunes would be a better option. So, yeah.
You mentioned the injuries there to Tim and a few others in midfield in particular. How big a role can Harrison Armstrong play as a younger player in this squad this season?
Well, Harrison is now been propelled into becoming a first-team player, probably much faster than even I expected. But I have to say his performances have warranted it in many ways. But I think when you're a 19-year-old and if you think that your 19-year-old is going to be good enough to play 36 Premier League games and cup games and all that, well, there's very few 19-year-olds would be doing that. So he has to be brought along, played, tucked out at the right times, moved it. No, so we'll have to do that. But I have to say, he's an athletic, fit young boy, and I think he stepped up, especially at the start of most seasons. I think that he had a really good start when he went to Preston last year and whatnot. So he started well for us in the pre-season games. So we're pleased, and he's given us more to think about.
Thanks, Paddy. Any further questions in the open section before we move on? No.